You guys want to hear another story?
Please put your hands together for Sufian, Zhemukhov, and Nart Shekim.
Yay!
I moved to Washington, D.C. from part of Russia called Circassia, which is a small Russian region with its own language. And I thought I would be the lone Circassian here in D.C. and would never speak my native language. Even though D.C. is known as a very diverse city, I was far gone from home and I didn't think that I would meet another Circassian here.
Well, I first met Sufian in a conference here in D.C. He asked a question during the Q&A, and so he introduced himself and said his name. So after the conference, I walked up to him and introduced myself, and I asked him, "Are you related to my best friend in Jordan, who's also has the last name Zhemukhov?"
We Circassians know all our relatives. And I said, "What a small world. Your friend is my cousin, 14 times removed." Our unlikely meeting reminded me how before World War II, there were only 2 cars in Circassia. And one day they met and had an accident. Our meeting had more positive results, as Nart and I discovered that we have a lot in common, including liking Circassian donuts called Shekim and Circassian gravy called jedlibja and Circassian sweet called tkhorij. Don't forget those words because we're going to have a quiz after the show. More importantly, we discovered that we shared the same ancient Circassian tradition of storytelling. I tell personal stories.
And I tell visual stories, because I am a filmmaker, but I am not an iPhone filmmaker.
So one day I pitched a story for the National Storytelling Festival in Jonesboro, Tennessee. And for some miracle, I was selected as one of 6 finalists. And I said, "Nart, we could go on this long road trip down to Tennessee, and we will be like just the ancient Circassians who used to jump on their horses and drive for days hunting. Only we will be hunting for first place." And we may even end up as part of American folklore. Imagine an American joke. 2 Circassians walk into a festival.
Well, I said to Sufian, "Count me in." And we jumped in their car and we went down to Tennessee. However, once we got there, I was really taken aback because there was such heavy police presence in Jonesboro that it kind of got me the wrong way. And I was like, why there's so many good old boys in such a small town in the middle of nowhere? And everywhere we went, they would give us a hard time parking. They told us, "No, you can't park here, you can't park there." So I thought, well, maybe they're there to make parking impossible. Or they could be the storytelling police, and they're there to arrest anybody who told a bad story.
As the competition started, I said 3 prayers that every storytelling finalist at the National Storytelling Festival says. I prayed, "Don't let me pick first, because no one who gone first ever won the Story Slam before." My second prayer was, "Don't let me forget my story." because blanking out in front of thousands of people would be really a disaster. And my third prayer was, don't let me get interrupted by the Norfolk Southern Express train. Because the Norfolk Southern Express train passes Jonesboro loudly for about 5 minutes in the middle of Story Slam, interrupting one unlucky storyteller every year. And no one who was interrupted by the train ever won the festival.
Well, my only prayer was that I wanted to have a good recording of Sufian's story. So once we got to the Story Slam tent, I was pleasantly surprised that there were no police anywhere to be seen. So I went in, took my place in the middle of the crowd, and I sat down and started recording whoever was telling a story. That turned out to be not a very good decision, because while I was recording, the guy next to me decided to get up and walked right in front of me, blocking the stage and blocking my view. So that didn't work. So I thought, I can't let that happen when Sufian tells a story. So I got up, moved to the front, and sat in the front row.
Well, I knew that my first prayer was answered when I was not picked first to go first. I was chosen fourth. And as my turn came, I start telling my story, and it's going all right. Only a couple of minutes in, I hear the dreaded sound of a train approaching. I thought, of course an American train would pick on the only Russian in the lineup. There is no train, however. Whatever I heard or imagined has stopped. And I felt a huge relief and forgot my story. I paused for about 2 or 3 seconds. 3 seconds is a lot. I was on the verge of panic and humiliation. And then I saw Nart's face in the first row. And his face was like an island of friendship in the ocean of strangers. And he smiled back at me, and I continued my story with confidence. My confidence was a bit delusional, as it turned out. Because my story was about how I met a stranger who told me that he spoke to Jesus. And that story made everyone laugh when I told it in D.C. Not in Tennessee. Apparently, Southerners don't find communicating with Jesus so uncommon or funny.
Well, the next storyteller told a story about Dolly Parton and her huge heart. That story won first place, while Sufian's story won third. So, after the show, we were walking around Jonesboro, and people were recognizing Sufian, and some people came up to him and says, I really like your story the best, and I thought that you should have won the first place. And I too was like, I thought he should have won the first place. That was the whole thing was like the best part for me in Jonesboro, this whole journey for us together. But I guess you can't beat a story about Dolly Parton in Tennessee, because Tennessee is her home state, and that's the home of Dollywood.
Well, my story didn't win the first place and won only modest third place. But thanks to Nart, I had the best film recording of story performance. And I also have arguably the best friend of all the Circassian population of Washington, D.C.
Likewise, Sufian. However, if you decide to go to Jonesboro again next time and tell a story at the National Storytelling Festival, I advise you to tell a story about Dolly Parton. Because in Tennessee, Dolly always comes first, while Jesus came third.